Greetings, this is Corinne, and today we're talking about sharing things from Google Drive, so Google Docs, safely and securely as possible. So we are must adhere by two federal laws. One is FERPA and one is HIPAA. FERPA says that we are not allowed to share personally identifiable information about students outside of directory information. So our directory information is usually, and that of our districts is defined by their local school board policy. HIPAA is the other one, and that says that any of the health information that we have about kids can't be shared outside of the people that really need to know it. So we're going to talk about those two laws a little bit more in terms of what the actionable part of what we have to be doing and the most secure way to share that information, because it's necessary. Google Docs is actually a great way to share information because of the way Google stores that information. So it's duplicated and sort of tiny pieces of it are all over the world. But from one central spot, you, the human, when you log in, are the only one that can see that information in its complete form. So we are, email's an insecure way to send it because in transit it can be intercepted. And so that's why we encourage people not to send any personally identifiable information or health information about students over email. Even if we think it's secure, it's usually not. And so keeping it within our own digital space is the best idea, and then just letting someone know that it's available to them. The other breakdown is actually on our side, because we're the ones that write down our password on a sticky note and put it on our computer. And then if someone takes our computer, they can log in and do all kinds of things with that student data. So the key things are to know who you're sharing with and how you're sharing. So what you're allowing people to do with that information once they have access to it. So let's take a look at, here's a document, and it doesn't have any personally identifiable information on it, but I'm going to show you a couple different settings that you might want to consider when you're sharing information. So the blue share button up here helps us disseminate this information. The settings on this document currently are anyone at the link can view. That is not likely something we would use very often with student data. But in this case, with this document, it doesn't have to be that secure. So when you pull down this menu, the most secure setting is right here, off with only specific people. So that is I mean, you're just typing people's names right here. So if I wanted to share it with my colleague Polly, I would start to type her name in. I would click here. Right now she has editing rights. So this is the how you're sharing parts. It automatically gives her editing rights, but I can also restrict her access a little bit and just allow her to comment, which maintains the integrity of the information in this document. Or I can just give her viewing rights, and then essentially it's like sending her a link, and it's just to a web page. She can only read it. She'd have to give me feedback over email or something else. So this is the most secure way. And then you can further that security by just entering the names of the people that need access to the document or the information in the document. And then you can restrict here again. Those are the settings I just went over. And then if you own the document, you can actually prevent anyone that has access to it from changing not just their access, but giving access to other people. And then also downloading, printing, or copying it. It essentially makes this document into a PDF, but it's behind a username and password. So this really is a way to kind of, it locks down the document and gives people only access to it that need it, or as you see it. So with that said, we'll look at some other settings that might be relevant. And the way I'm going to get there is here. So these are all the choices you have on a Google Doc. And as I said, this one's the most secure, just the specific people that need access to it. And then as we move up this list, it becomes less and less secure, the data in the document itself. So we went over setting it so specific people have access to it. The next one up is to give anyone at our agency access to it with the link. So it's slightly more secure because they can't get to it unless they actually have the link to the document. When they click that link, it gives them, it pulls up the document. Now they have to be in our agency to do that. So if you're sharing with outside doctors' offices or any of those, you're going to have to move up to the next one, which is, sorry, not the next one. You'll have to move two up. So we'll go over that in a second. This setting, Northwest Regional Education Service District, is on. People don't have to have the link. They can actually search for it and find it within the domain. So that one's less secure, still within the realm of the ESD, but less secure because there may be people that have access to that that don't necessarily need it. And both FERPA and HIPAA have that verbiage in the laws. So it's our responsibility as sort of managers of this data to only allow people to see it that need it. The next one up is anyone with the link can access this information. And this is not highly recommended for student data, but sometimes we're forced into it because of if we're sharing outside of the agency. So for that, make sure that you are locking down what they can do with that data. So probably they just need access to viewing it. That may vary from situation to situation. And then the least secure setting is here, public on the web. So that one, it really gives, it's searchable on the web. It gives everybody access. Anything with student data, this is not recommended. This setting probably won't apply to you. It essentially makes it a web page. So that would be breaking both laws and is not recommended. So I want to go back to this anyone with a link for a second. And I want you to remember that if you're sharing with an outside entity, also preventing anyone from adding new people to that document so they would have access to that personally identifiable information, or also downloading it, printing it, making a copy of it. That should all be locked down as well. So that is kind of the long and short of sharing information over Google Docs. And if you have questions, of course, enter a help desk ticket by sending an email to helpdesk@cascadetech.org or Northwest, I'm sorry, nope, not that address, helpdesk@nwresd.org. And just quickly, let's see, to review, let's go over these one more time when you're sharing and you do see all of the options. This is the most secure. This is the least secure. Public on the web should never, ever be used for documents that have any personally identifiable information about students. Thanks for listening.